The story begins when a busty girl named Naomoto stares at her phone while her classmate drools beside her. Since no one else can see what she's up to, she surfs through the forbidden hub and finds the right video to make her clam squirm. Since she survived puberty and made it to Cloud Academy, Naomoto has been training for love like it's the Olympics but still hasn't made the team. So she locks in and fondles her mega mango wishing she's the one in the video. After shutting out the entire world just to get her fix, Naomoto realizes she stands a better chance of winning the lottery twice in a row without buying a ticket than falling in love. Moreover, her family has always taunted her for having Itachi's eyes. She has always thought of this until the gods of plot decide to give her a break. One day, while she walks through a corridor, Usagi approaches her with a sheepish smile and says he'd like to go out with her. Being the first time she'll be that close to a dude, her eyes almost pop out of their sockets. Some moments after this, Naomoto waits for her Prince Charming on the rooftop landing in anticipation and wonders if that's all it takes to be booed up. After the awkward moment when Usagi popped the question, he asked her to wait for him at the rooftop landing if she had a response for him. Meanwhile, Naomoto has always thought Usagi was dating a classmate named Niko since he's the main character in every girl's romantic daydream. Still deeply lost in thought, Naomoto asks herself if she's ever talked to Usagi and wonders what the gods of plot are cooking. Suddenly, she acts funny when she realizes the dream she had given up on and believed could never come true just by daydreaming is finally playing out. After breezing through a flurry of emotions, Naomoto gets worried, telling herself to calm down and think straight. Just then, she concludes there's no way such a miracle would happen since things like that are usually regarded as a penalty game. So she channels her inner detective and tries connecting dots that aren't there. Just then, she suspects that Usagi and Niko must be up to some mischief since they seem to be conspiring together. So she figures they're probably betting on whether or not she'll jump on the offer. Suddenly, she rumbles, stating why she dislikes cheerful people since they easily cross the line. While she makes a plan to reconstruct her opponent's faces regardless of how handsome or beautiful they are, Usagi arrives and calls her. Alarmed by his presence, Naomoto exclaims and expresses her surprise at seeing him alone and without the press. Unaware of Naomoto's internal battles, Usagi says he is alone and beams with a smile, telling her how happy he is that she showed up. Confused as ever, Naomoto dabbles between accepting that she's wrong and keeping her guard up, since the press might be lurking around with cameras. So Naomoto decides to take control of the situation and expose Usagi first. She then glares at him and asks why he chose her. In response, Usagi wonders why she's suddenly straightforward and smiles while trying to work up some groundbreaking and knee-shattering riz. Just then, he says he chose her because her pretty and cute eyes make him weak in his knees. On hearing this, Naomoto freezes as she feels the world go dark around her. While she struggles to keep her eyes in their sockets, her belly rumbles as Usagi's riz starts to take effect. Naomoto then tries to avoid eye contact with the Riz Lord standing before her while she reveals that it's the first time anyone has ever said something like that to her, surprising Usagi. After this, Naomoto asks if Usagi is messing with her since everyone seems to take their cue to belittle her from her eyes. Unsure of what she means by that, Usagi zones out for a bit. However, after he regains his juice, Usagi recalls when he had just entered the school, and she picked up a notebook he had dropped. When she returned the notebook, he sensed the chemistry as their eyes locked. He further explains that she's been living rent-free in his head ever since then. On hearing this, Naomoto remembers the day and figures she had stared a little too long at the new handsome dude since she's used to boys who look like they were sculpted by a glitchy AI. Just then, Usagi says their experience was love at first sight, surprising Naomoto, who then says she doesn't believe him because everyone is scared of her dark eyes. Amused by her thick-headed nature, Usagi smiles and figures it's time to take his game a notch higher, so he says that he's the only one smart enough to realize that she's the most wonderful girl. After this, Usagi reveals how happy he is to keep all her cuteness to himself. His back-to-back shots make repeated bullseye hits as Naomoto freezes for a few seconds and blushes hard because of his comments. Naomoto then pushes up her airbags to cushion the devastating effects of the hits. After this, Usagi asks if she has an answer for him, but after thinking about it for a while, Naomoto demands that they kiss to see if sparks will fly. Surprised by this proposition, Usagi gives her a questioning smile, but before he can say, Jack Robinson, Naomoto gets in his face and tries to pull a Dracula-style compulsion. However, Usagi struggles to keep her and her Milky Way twins away while telling her he has not had enough practice. In response, Neomoto tells him to shut up since she no longer cares about the facts. While Usagi wonders how she got her amazing strength, Neomoto angrily says she's ready to go crazy on him since she can't hold back anymore after he opened up her floodgates with his lines. Surprised to hear this, Usagi tries to stall her for a bit longer, but Neomoto's bouncy orb squeezes and presses against his skinny chest. Overwhelmed by the struggle in view, Usagi gets dizzy and suddenly collapses. After this, Neomoto wonders if it's the same ballsy guy who walked up to her and tried to shoot down her emotional defenses like Cupid cosplaying as John Wick. Frustrated by this, she angrily says he's got her taps rushing. The next day at school, Neomoto thinks of how she ruined her only ticket out of Singles Town. She then blames Usagi for setting up the punishment game. While she plays her blame game, Usagi enters the class and walks towards her. So he greets her with a smile and a wave, making Neomoto light up with a neon sign screaming "Simp Alert." However, the joy is short-lived as Niketo shows up to steal her love interest's attention. Pissed off by this, Neomoto wonders if he could ever trust Usagi around a hottie like her. Although she's just childhood friends with Usagi, Niketo combines Marilyn Monroe's face with a figure like Nikki's, and to top it all, she smells nice. From Neomoto's POV, no one would be dumb enough to choose her over Niketo, so she watches Emma play Couple of the Year with Usagi. While she stares at them wishing one of them would fall to the ground, Neomoto gets unsettled but reassures herself by saying it doesn't matter to her since it's all a lie. However, reality strikes her, and she figures she can't possibly shake off other women around a good-looking chap like Usagi simply because she's dating him. Just then, she gets off her seat like a robot on autopilot, convincing herself that it doesn't matter. So she joins Usagi and Niketo, looking like your daddy's tadpole swimming in the wrong hole. Surprised, Niketo asks her if something is wrong while Usagi braces for impact. Just then, Neomoto points at them and asks if they're dating, surprising the duo. So Niketo responds by saying they're just childhood friends. After momentarily glancing at Usagi, Niketo explains that it's unfortunate that they're not dating, and also adds that it's rare to find someone cuter than she is. Niketo then tells Neomoto to keep her hands and massive plots away from Usagi. Meanwhile, Usagi tries to say something but gets cut off by Niketo, who then asks how far Neomoto has gotten with Usagi. Neomoto then says that Niketo's friendship with Usagi probably has less action compared to a nun's diary. She then brags about making Usagi flood his pants, just with a kiss which wasn't successful anyway. This surprises Niketo, who suddenly gets red in the face and asks Neomoto what she meant by that. Facing Usagi, who couldn't bear to stare any of the girls in the face, Niketo asks if it's true. However, before he can give a response, Neomoto tries to suffocate him with her pillows while apologizing to Niketo for stealing him away. After this, Neomoto walks off like nothing happened while Usagi, whose spirit has left his body, bangs his head on the table. Shaken by what she's just heard, Niketo throws a tantrum and screams angrily. Just then, she grabs Usagi and tells him to explain himself or she'll undo his fainting with a slap loud enough to reset his entire bloodline. Afterward, Neomoto sits all by herself on the rooftop landing, thinking of how good it feels to ruin a perfect friendship. While she feels like the ice-cold Snow Queen, she admits she dislikes Niketo's persistence. Just then, Usagi shows up, startling her with his sudden appearance. So she asks why he's looking for her, and in response, Usagi tells her she's the one he likes. He then further explains that Niketo is just a childhood friend and nothing more. After this, he asks if she has an answer to his proposal yet since he didn't get one the previous day. Surprised that Usagi is dumb enough to pick a walking landmine like her over Niketo, Neomoto suddenly gets gloomy, feeling bad for what she did. So Usagi asks her if something is wrong, and she responds by saying she feels sorry for Niketo. However, Usagi casually says he'll properly explain it to Niketo as if he's got the remote control of her emotions. Hearing this, Neomoto freaks out, telling him that he should have explained it to Niketo from the beginning since it's pretty obvious that she has feelings for him. So Usagi realizes his mistake and apologizes to Neomoto. Just then, Niketo walks in on them and asks Usagi if he's really in a relationship with Neomoto. Suddenly, Neomoto yells, saying she doesn't mind a three-way fun, freaking out Usagi and Niketo. Afterward, they decide to go out for tea. Later at a karaoke, Niketo and Neomoto sit together having tea silently. While Niketo gets busy looking through the menu, Neomoto wonders what they're doing at the karaoke since it doesn't seem either of them could sing to save their lives. Suddenly, Niketo gives Neomoto a serious look, making her wonder if she's about to get crushed under those hefty balloony structures. Just then, Niketo asks her if she's really dating Usagi. Surprised by Niketo's sudden switch in demeanor, Neomoto explains that she doesn't know, since she has not given him a definite answer yet. Meanwhile, Neomoto wonders if there's a line of connection between Usagi and Niketo. Since she's starting to feel like Niketo isn't the type who could lie, Neomoto compliments Usagi and reveals that she doesn't trust him yet because he has a face from which she can't tell what he's thinking. Hearing this, Niketo asks if she means she can't trust his confession. When Neomoto confirms this, she further explains that she can't trust Usagi's claims of liking her eyes. However, to her surprise, Niketo comments that her eyes are really big and cute. Shocked by this comment, Neomoto freezes and freaks out in elation. Meanwhile, Niketo gets sober when she realizes that Usagi is a sucker for girls with big eyes. So she says she envies Neomoto, who then wonders if that's even a thing. While Niketo sobs, mourning the loss of her bestie to a huge eye monster, Neomoto asks if anything is wrong. In response, Niketo laments that Usagi never looks her way no matter how hard she tries. Then she asks again to confirm if Usagi really confessed to Neomoto. Before getting any response, Niketo says there's nothing she can do to make Usagi see her that way. After this, Niketo wipes her eyes and thanks Neomoto. She then announces that she's made up her mind to give up. While she continues to sob, Neomoto stares at her like a bartender listening to another breakup story and is surprised to discover there are worse suckers for love than herself. So Neomoto screams at Niketo, telling her to shut down the waterworks. While Niketo stares back wondering why she's being screamed at, Neomoto tells her not to get all flustered just because some big-chested country bumpkin showed up to steal her crush. Dazed by Neomoto's sudden switch to activist mode, Niketo stares at Neomoto as she rants about how beautiful she is. Neomoto then adds that if she were Usagi, she'd keep Niketo working on his sweet spots and never let her go. Hearing this, Niketo wonders what Neomoto means by that, so she curiously stares at Neomoto with teary eyes. Meanwhile, Neomoto takes one look at Niketo and realizes why guys act the way they do around ladies. Niketo then asks Neomoto why she supports her, despite being the preferred option. In response, Neomoto says it's not certain they're dating yet, and also adds that Niketo seems to have a twisted personality like hers. Despite feeling bad for Niketo's loss, Neomoto figures it'd be the best possible outcome if Usagi's confessions were real. So she says it's hard to explain, but it feels like such a waste. Hearing this, Niketo smiles amidst tears and asks what she means by that. Meanwhile, Neomoto can't get over how cute she looks even when she cries, so she is stunned when Niketo grabs her hands and pulls her closer. Niketo then thanks Neomoto for helping her find her courage. Just then, she adds that they're rivals from that moment on, and also requests that they compete fairly and squarely. Meanwhile, Neomoto stares like an empty canvas, while Niketo jokingly suggests that they leave the oblivious Usagi behind and have fun with each other. On hearing this, Neomoto's brain short-circuits for a moment. In response, Neomoto says she likes the idea, surprising Niketo. So Neomoto reaches out to grab Niketo's chest handles, but Niketo hurriedly pulls back, wondering if she's gone haywire. Despite this, Neomoto insists she still wants to have some fun, even with a girl. While Niketo wonders who let the nut job out of the loony bin, Neomoto compliments Niketo on being cute and adds that even girls love cute girls. Hearing this, Niketo prepares to flee while Neomoto explains that her switch has been flipped on after getting invited like that. After this, she asks if Niketo feels pent up like her since Usagi doesn't know what to do with a kitty when handed one on a platter. While Neomoto continues making her advances, Niketo explains that they aren't allowed to do X-rated stuff. She then adds that she meant something else when she talked about fun. However, the beast in Neomoto is out of the cage and off the leash, so she exposes her gravity-defying melons and offers to allow Niketo to feel their texture. But Niketo bluntly refuses the offer. Sometime later, Usagi apologizes to Neomoto for inviting her into an empty classroom. Thinking it's about to get steamy in there, Neomoto says it's fine. However, Usagi says that he'll just go straight to the point. He then asks if they're actually dating or not. Surprised and disappointed that he'd waste an empty class opportunity to ask her that, Neomoto says that she has no idea since they're yet to make it clear. In response, Usagi says that he wants to settle it, so he asks her to just hit him with it if the answer is no. Now that Neomoto knows he's not in cahoots with Niketo, she struggles to believe the school's Prince Charming would fall in love with a bottom feeder like herself. She then thinks of cutting things off with him, but figures it would be a waste. Finally, Neomoto decides that she'd like to do something naughty, even if the whole drama ends up being a prank. so she smiles and decides to accept his proposal. While Usagi gets excited to hear this, Neomoto convinces herself that she hasn't lost to her desires, so she chooses to play along until she exposes the mastermind of the prank. Just then, she also thinks of Niko and decides she'll think about getting her involved in the game too. With this in mind, she tells Usagi that there's plenty of time after all. However, he's on a different ride, so he didn't catch her drift. After this, Usagi reminds Neomoto of their love at first sight situation and says he'd like to know more about her. In response, Neomoto says she barely knows anything about him either, so she asks if they should start by feeling her milk jugs, surprising Usagi. Neomoto then further asks if Usagi is the gentle type who massages or the brute who likes to clap. Meanwhile, Usagi ignores the flags and expresses his surprise at hearing her ask about that. He then points out that Neomoto likes to skip steps, so he suggests that they keep it PG like regular students. Infuriated by this, Neomoto grabs Usagi by his shirt and screams, saying the point of going to school is to learn how it's done. To serve as an incentive, she flaunts her bulgy baubles while telling him he's not going to regret playing with them since they're huge. Unimpressed by this, Usagi waves it off with his hands and struggles to process his thoughts for a bit. Meanwhile, Neomoto thinks he must be a sissy for not wanting to touch a girl's twin towers even when she wants it to. Finally, Usagi manages to unlock his voice and says that she doesn't have to go that far since he's just happy talking to her. Neomoto stares at her new boyfriend in silence for a moment, wondering if he's got any nuts in his sack. Having had enough rejections and refusals, Neomoto sighs in frustration and resigns to fate. Reluctantly, she then says she's happy too. In his defense, Usagi says that it's not that he's uninterested in that kind of stuff, but he'd like to take things step by step. After apologizing for being selfish, Usagi asks if they can take their time. So Neomoto goes mute for a bit and eventually says she understands that she's been going about it the wrong way. Suddenly, she gets on her knees and puffs up her mega balloons, saying she'll have to caress him first before he can get in the mood. Hearing this, Usagi says that's not what he meant. Later that day at Neomoto's home, she steps out of the shower and dries her wet body with a towel. After this, she sits on her bed and decides to check her phone. Just then, she spots something unusual on her cell phone and recalls she had exchanged contact info with Usagi earlier that day. When he asked for her contact and requested that they chat, Neomoto felt weird since her dad was the only male on her contact list. Just then, she gets excited because she has always fantasized about having a flirt fest with a boyfriend. So she wonders what kind of mischief they can get into, but suddenly remembers the possibility that the whole drama could be a punishment. She then thinks Usagi might be planning to enjoy her reaction with the mastermind, so she decides she can't carelessly type anything. Suddenly, Neomoto's phone beeps from a notification, and she lets go of the phone out of shock. On checking her phone, she finds a message from Usagi, telling her to check out his kitty. Since she had expected something spicy, Neomoto couldn't figure out what to say. Finally, she says it's cute and adds an emoji. Suddenly, she gets an idea and laughs like a maniac. She then flings her phone out of disappointment and wishes Usagi would ask her for some R-rated photos. Just then, Neomoto concludes that Usagi and the mastermind have terrible taste in punishment games since there's nothing enjoyable about the boring chat. After this, Neomoto groans in frustration because she can't find an outlet for her lust. On a whim, Neomoto decides to send something to spice things up whenever they meet, so she lets her hefty melons loose and takes a selfie with them on display. After taking a few extra shots, Neomoto gets ready to spam Usagi's DMS with the view once images. However, when she tries to click send, she figures it's unbelievably embarrassing even for her. So she wonders if she can make it work by covering her twist and shout buttons. Eventually, Neomoto pulls down her clothes, saying it's totally useless and absolutely impossible. So she lays down on the bed, thinking it would have been easier if she were face to face with Usagi. Just then, it occurs to her that she might freeze if it comes down to it. So she says that she hates how unconfident she is. Just then, her phone rings and she picks it up. On checking the screen, she discovers it's a video call from Usagi, so she anxiously picks it up and says hello. In response, Usagi greets her with a wave, sending her brains and vocal cords on a commercial break. While Neomoto stares at the screen, she wonders if there's a reason for the call and thinks Usagi might be harassing her. Just then, Usagi says he doesn't have anything specific to say, but likes her eyes and just wants to see her face. Hearing this, Neomoto recalls why Usagi is every lady's choice, but she couldn't bring herself to respond to his comments. So she stares at the phone like a caveman at a smartphone launch event and freaks out, feeling awkward. So she says she's also happy to see his face. Hearing this, Usagi blushes while holding his kitty, and Neomoto stares silently, wishing he could hold and pet hers too. Eventually, she breaks the silence by asking Usagi for a favor. Neomoto then raises her cloth and asks if she can send him a picture of her melons so he can use them as late-night jizzing materials. In response, Usagi says he just wants to see her face and nothing else. Sometime later, Neomoto enjoys some sweets at a cafe with Usagi sitting opposite her on what seems like a romantic date. While she watches Usagi slurp some coffee from his cup, she thinks of how she had wanted to enjoy some me time alone, munching on sweets, but got accosted by Usagi, who claimed he wanted to tag along. Unexpectedly, it turned into a uniform cafe date. To break the awkward silence, Neomoto suggests that Usagi places an order. In addition, she asks if he wants her to share some of hers with him. Usagi then responds by saying it's not manly for a guy to like sweets. Just then, he gets on his feet to explain that it's pretty obvious that he loses his cool whenever he's too close to a girl, and this, in his opinion, he is not very manly enough either. Because of this, he thought he should start with small things and try to be more manly. Neomoto then reminds him of his decision to take things slow and asks if he's changing that now. When Usagi confirms this, he explains that he regrets not thinking about Neomoto, even though that's his true feeling. After this, Usagi points out that Neomoto hasn't been sending him messages or inviting him over. And because of this, he started feeling anxious. While Neomoto comments on how pathetic he looks, Usagi says he doesn't want her to hate him. Just then, Neomoto wonders how someone could be so handsome, yet pathetic. However, as always, she just can't make heads or tails of what he's thinking, since she still thinks it's a punishment game and she doesn't know when the mastermind will be exposed. Neomoto suddenly suggests that they sample each other's merchandise. However, Usagi asks why every conversation with her always ends in the red zone. In response, Neomoto tells him to shut up and get hands-on with her. In response, Usagi tells her that's the most harmful thing in manliness. After this, he tries to convince himself that it's not wrong as Neomoto's boyfriend. While Neomoto wonders what he's up to, Usagi suddenly leans towards her, so she exclaims like it's the craziest thing she's ever seen. Feeling energized, Usagi suggests that they do the kiss they couldn't do at first. Shocked by this, Neomoto asks if he wants to do it right then and there. Without responding, Usagi continues to lean in with his eyes closed while Neomoto freezes with her eyes wide open and realizes she isn't mentally prepared for what's about to happen in front of everyone. Suddenly, Usagi halts, making her wonder if she's got bad breath. However, he says she's so cute and apologizes for stopping midway. Confused, Neomoto asks if it's over and tries to hold back from rearranging Usagi's expressionless face. Usagi then smiles and blames himself for not being manly at all. Unimpressed, Neomoto picks up her cutlery and takes a bit of her pancakes. So she gestures, telling Usagi to open up his mouth, and tries to feed him some. Reluctantly, Usagi opens his mouth while she stares at him weirdly. Suddenly, Neomoto chomps the food in his mouth and licks the spoon afterward. While Usagi munches on the food and talks about its delicious tastes, Neomoto says she's looking for an outlet for her desires. So she shows Usagi how skilled she is while sucking and slurping on the spoon. During her tongue skill exhibition, Neomoto explained that it's not like she wanted Usagi to become more manly. Rather, she wants to know more about the real Usagi. To further emphasize what she means, Neomoto says she'd like to find out who he is in the bedroom. Amused by this, Usagi exclaims and decides to order some pancakes since he now likes sweet things. Just then, Neomoto says she'll give him more of hers since it takes time to cook. While she feeds Usagi, Neomoto beams with smiles, enjoying the moment. After this, they played Romeo and Juliet for a while, and after the plates were emptied, Neomoto says it's quite surprising that someone as handsome as Usagi isn't more confident. In response, Usagi says that there's something he can say with confidence, and that's the fact that it's not a mistake that he fell for her. Hearing this, Neomoto's cheeks go on fire as she freaks out. Suddenly, she grabs Usagi's joystick while he screams, telling her to let it go. Just then, Neomoto asks if it's okay to come onto him aggressively from that moment on. The next day at school, during the break, Neomoto places her lunch on the table and momentarily digs in like it's a speed eating competition. While she munches like a T-Rex, she senses a presence near her and looks up to find a smiling Nikito with her lunchbox in hand. Nikito then suggests that they eat together, surprising Neomoto, who wonders if she's forgotten how their last hangout played out. After they stare at each other in awkward silence, Naomoto asks if she's got some trick up her sleeve, but Niketo responds, saying she just thought of keeping her company when she saw her eating alone. In response, Naomoto angrily says she's fine being alone since she's not the kind of weak person who feels embarrassed about eating alone. Surprised by her reaction, Niketo points out that she's the one who cares since Usagi is out with a cold, and she's a friend who is eating alone. Just then, it occurs to Naomoto that Niketo now sees her as a friend despite what happened at the karaoke. Seeing how she's being considerate, Naomoto wonders if she's really a good person, so she says she'd like to change location if that's the case. A few moments later, while they ate together on the rooftop landing, Niketo asked why she picked such a dusty place. In response, Naomoto says she wants it to be just the two of them. After this, she adds that she was hoping they could have a spicy symposium. However, Niketo bluntly refuses and diverts the conversation by asking how things are going with Usagi. In response, Naomoto reveals that they exchanged contacts and ate pancakes together. She then asks if Niketo won't be making any moves on her love interest, but Niketo tells her to call her by her first name. After this, Niketo makes a joke by saying that Naomoto's encouragement has suddenly made her feel like she's cooled down. Surprised by this, Naomoto asks if she's telling the truth and Niketo responds with a laugh. She then says she still likes Usagi and is still desperate for him to notice her. Just then, she admits that she feels strange about it and that her talk with Naomoto gave her some closure. Just then, Naomoto's eyes triple in size as she teleports to mute the universe. Just then, Naomoto thinks she's done something wrong by erasing Niketo's important feelings. Meanwhile, Niketo winks at her and says she's actually more interested in her since Naomoto is a type she's never had as a friend before. Hearing this, Naomoto goes dumbstruck again for a moment as she realizes she was wrong about erasing Niketo's feelings. She then considers herself lucky to have successfully shifted Niketo's feelings to herself. So she says she's also interested in Niketo. Just then, Niketo tells her to ask her about anything. However, Naomoto compliments Niketo on her cute looks and reveals that she wants to do R-rated things with her. Struck by a fresh wave of nostalgia, Niketo wonders why their conversation is becoming similar to the one they had at the karaoke. So she gives Naomoto a serious look and asks if all she ever thinks of is X-rated. Without thinking, Naomoto admits to this and suggests that Niketo rubs her racks. She then explains that she wants to be rubbed by someone else, and since she's a girl, she must know all the good spots. In response, Niketo gets red in her cheeks and says she doesn't really do it to herself much. However, because of Naomoto's desperate and menacing glare, Niketo sighs and comments that it's okay if she's the one doing it. She then decides to give it a go for a bit. Excited about this, Naomoto says she loves Niketo while panting, making her wonder if she made the right choice. Afterward, she lifts her hands to get to work on Naomoto's giant orbs, while Naomoto pushes out her chest in anticipation. Suddenly, Niketo feels the balloons and rubs them while Naomoto gets red from the pleasure. Shocked by how big Naomoto's melons are, Niketo continues rubbing them while Naomoto makes happy sounds. After a while, her volume increases and Niketo cautions her to keep it down. Suddenly, Niketo takes off her hands and says it's enough. So Naomoto thanks her and adds that it felt so good she almost ascended. This freaks Niketo out, and she tells Naomoto not to talk about it. In response, Naomoto suggests that they do it regularly, but Niketo bluntly refuses. However, she keeps the friendship. Sometime later, Usagi is surprised when he opens his door and finds his girlfriend standing there. Just then, they ask about how he feels and he says he's still feverish. After this, he thanks Naomoto for coming. Niketo had told her she was going to visit Usagi, so she decided to tag along. However, all she could think of was how much effort it would take to flirt with Usagi to maintain her reputation as a baddie. Just then, it occurs to Naomoto that she could also get some info on the mastermind. Shortly after this, Niketo asks if Ria is still in school, surprising Naomoto, who then wonders who this mystery person is. So Niketo unpacks the sports and jelly drinks they got for Usagi and announces she'll be putting them in the fridge. After this, she takes out a copy of her class notes for Usagi. Shocked by this, Naomoto exclaims and calls out Niketo for doing too much. However, Niketo reminds her that she's the girlfriend. While Niketo wonders if Naomoto is going nuts, Usagi lays back on a chair and sighs. Just then, Niketo announces that she's going to find something to put on him since he still has a fever. Hearing this, Naomoto disagrees and says Usagi is sweating so much and he'll get cold if he doesn't change. After this, she suggests that they take off his clothes. Shocked to hear this, Niketo wonders what she's up to and gives her a knowing stare. Just then, Niketo points out that Neomoto is drooling, so she screams at Neomoto, asking if she's seriously lusting over a sick man. Startled by Niketo's reaction, Neomoto explains that her idea is purely a rational decision, so Niketo begins a staring contest while Neomoto stares back, whistling. Suddenly, Neomoto flares up and says that it's a necessary procedure, and it's even better if she gets to satisfy her desires at the same time. In response, Niketo points out that she's finally showing her true colors. Neomoto then says she's Usagi's girlfriend, and because of this, she has every right to do whatever she wants to him. This frustrates Niketo, so she admits that she hasn't completely given up on Usagi yet. When she looks back up, she's surprised to find Neomoto trying to take off Usagi's shirt. However, when Neomoto is done exposing his pecs and abs, Niketo's eyes widen as she takes a gulp, while Neomoto comments by saying he has a nice body just like she expected. Suddenly, Neomoto exclaims and says she's got a good idea. She then suggests that they warm Usagi up with their body heat. In response, Niketo says that it's an outrageous suggestion and calls Neomoto a cultured monster. Unbothered about this, Neomoto says she's sure Niketo's body temperature is rising the moment she says Usagi's body. After this, Neomoto takes off her clothes and joins Usagi on the chair. She then tells Niketo to watch from the sidelines if she's not going to join them. While Niketo wonders if she's gone totally nuts, Neomoto says she'll warm Niketo up real good too. Just then, Neomoto makes some weird sounds and rolls on his side while Neomoto watches, amused. Suddenly, she tears up and Niketo asks if something is wrong. In response, Neomoto explains that Usagi is suffering while Niketo is taking good care of him. Just then, she feels guilty and weeps for thinking about lewd things. After calling herself a lustful monster, Niketo tries to console her. However, she concludes she's the worst despite being Usagi's girlfriend. Surprised by Neomoto's sudden switch, Niketo pulls her closer and tells her to cheer up. But unknown to her, Neomoto can't get her big eyes off her chest bulbs. Suddenly, Neomoto hugs Niketo and buries her face in between her pillows while Niketo exclaims in amusement. However, she soon figures that Neomoto wants more than just a hug. So Neomoto tells Niketo to comfort her more since they're friends, while Usagi complains of the cold. Some days later, Neomoto sits alone in class and thinks about how she screwed things up the other day. She then gets on her feet and excuses her behavior by saying Usagi is a questionable boyfriend, so she decides to move on without worrying about it. Just then, a classmate walks up to say good morning and pokes her cheek, but she clearly isn't in the mood. Afterward, she stands before Usagi like a guilty puppy, while Niketo watches with her arms folded. Neomoto then apologizes to Usagi while he wonders what she's apologizing for. Neomoto explains that she did a lot of unnecessary things when she visited him. In response, Usagi says he's not bothered about it since he was out and doesn't remember much. However, Neomoto insists she wants to make peace with it since it doesn't sit right with her. So she asks Usagi if he wants her to do anything, but he says nothing comes to mind. After this, Neomoto stares at Usagi and realizes he's really handsome. After this, she suggests that they do something nasty. Unsurprised, Usagi says he saw that coming. Niketo then interrupts them and angrily asks why she was invited. In response, Neomoto says she wanted Niketo there just in case she messes up. Immediately, Niketo retorts telling her she's messed up already and advising her to restrain herself. She then lashes out at Neomoto for making her mediate between her crush and the girl he likes. Scared by her angry looks, Neomoto points out that she looks scary when pissed. So she asks Niketo if a kiss would be okay since she had the chance before but never got to do it. In response, Niketo shuts her up and recalls that Neomoto once talked about making Usagi bust with just a kiss. Just then, Neomoto faces Usagi and asks for a kiss. Usagi then responds by saying he feels like she wants to fulfill her desires right away. Hearing this, Neomoto gets glassy-eyed in anticipation, and Usagi suddenly says he'll push himself to do it if that's what his cute girlfriend wants. Surprised, both girls freak out, wondering if he's lost his mind. Facing Niketo, Usagi asks if it's okay, and she angrily responds, telling him to do whatever he wants. Just then, Neomoto gets excited, thinking the moment has finally arrived, but Usagi suggests that they do it some other day and not in front of Niketo. However, Neomoto grabs him by the hair to pull him in for a kiss, while Usagi tells her to be gentle. In response, Neomoto says she'll go all out because she has always dreamed of his lips. While Usagi complains of his head almost splitting, Niketo watches in disgust and thinks he'll definitely pass out before it happens. To her surprise, their lips move closer and closer, and she watches in shock as their lips lock. Just then, she gets red in the face as they continue for a while. Eventually, Usagi passes out and breaks off his lips from Neomoto's grip, while Niketo exclaims that he actually did it. Feeling elated, Neomoto marvels at how amazing the taste of her first kiss was and laughs while staring at Niketo, who then wonders why she's overreacting. Just then, Neomoto suggests that Niketo kisses her since it feels great. In addition, she reminds Niketo of her three-way offer and insists that she wants Niketo to know how good it feels. Just then, Niketo says that Neomoto is really a monster. In her attempt to escape from the lustful monster, Niketo falls while Neomoto says kissing her is an indirect kiss with Usagi because his saliva is all over her lips. Suddenly, Neomoto hops on Niketo while she struggles to get away. However, she realizes she won't make it in time, so they lock lips for a moment. While they exchanged fluids, Niketo wondered why she was being forced to witness the clown parade and why her lips were stolen. Just then, she decides she can't forgive Neomoto, so she grabs her and flips her over. Just then, Niketo announces that she'll show Neomoto how a real kiss is done. She then buries her tongue deep in Neomoto's mouth and leaves her drooling and hungry for more. While Neomoto wanes in the afterglow, Niketo tells her she's 10 years early to kiss Usagi in front of her. After this, she asks if Neomoto has learned her lesson and mockingly adds that even a lustful monster has no real experience. Neomoto then gets up and freaks out for being dominated aggressively. Just then, Niketo shudders at the sight of a living and breathing nympho, so Neomoto points out that Usagi is out cold and suggests that they continue with Niketo taking the lead. In response, Niketo screams at her and tells her to stop reacting grossly since it's over between them. What shenanigans will Neomoto pull off next? To find out, comment "Justice for Usagi," leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to the channel for similar content. Thanks for watching.